by Tribe Gaming if you go for that pick. So you're basically influencing what your opponents are doing right off the bat. Gives you a really easy decision.
Certainly does. Catherine will be locked in. A fairly unsurprising lock-in coming in for TSM. This is something that it's been highly contested across the course of the day. Most games it has just been banned out, but Tribe with an instant response, grabbing themselves a glaive and banning away the crawl.
That's a three-way flex pick with the glaive. It can be played on lane, can be played in the jungle, and in roam position. They end up taking Cruel 2 away from Vainglory8. Last game, he got a power spike around level 6 where he also picked up Tension Bow and went to lane ganked. He's a very incredibly strong player on Cruel, and they don't want to see him on it again.
There was a very smart draft by Tribe because it then forced Team Solomid to decide on the Scarf or the Baptiste. They let the Baptiste through. It gets taken by Tribe because they can't give that back over to Team Solomid. So TSM with a calculated response to it, but a calculated response that was forced by Tribe Gaming.
Now, I have to ask, is the Baptiste, you know, obviously there's the Catherine situation there, but the Baptiste seems like an interesting pick considering Tigers really didn't have that great of a game last game on the Baptiste.
He didn't, but generally he's a very good Baptiste player. He's actually one of the strongest in North America, I would say. The Gwen and the Rhyme end up coming through. Gwen is not a character that we traditionally see. I think it's going to be really good against the Baptiste or Dane. With the Skedaddle, you can get out of it. It's an easy getaway type of thing. At the same time, though, while Tribe had to take the Baptiste away, it works good for their composition just because if they play the glaive in lane, that's a Baptiste in the jungle CP. Good synergy there.
You can also flex the Baptiste into a captain role as well and still pick a CP laner. The Celeste is still available if they want to go that way. But the Rhyme pick, I think, is the really interesting one here. We typically only see Rhyme as a B-side counter pick. So the fact that they went for it this early is a little bit eye-opening.
Honestly, the one I want to talk about is the Gwen pick right here. We haven't seen this since like week 3 or something of last season. And 30% win rate as well. It's not like this has been a highly successful hero as of recent history. Like, what is the logic to going with a Gwen here? Is it just for specifically the Baptiste?
Yeah, it is very situational here, just to have that escape available to you if you need it. The only problem is that you can't skedaddle away from an afterburn. So if Gwen is too close, which generally she's gonna get too close because of her auto attack range, Glaive is gonna be able to afterburn her and is still getting locked down.
Rhyme actually 100% win rate. I didn't realize it was quite that high.
Yeah, it was only picked like 3 times.
Brings a sustain to their kit naturally. It makes them pretty viable. I do think the CP Idris pick was fantastic though from DNZ. It was the perfect pick, even better than Celeste because of his mobility to try and counter out this Rhyme from Vainglory8.
Alright, so he's gonna just try to be elusive through these fights, stay at range, apply damage. I think that makes a whole bunch of sense. I'm excited to see it. Also, he has that Horus skin, beautiful. Zeo should have a pretty good time, but you were mentioning, I mean, Gwen makes a whole lot of sense into a lot of your CP mage laners just to apply that early burst damage.
Yeah, nothing really major changed about Gwen specifically, but remember, Gwen is all about burst on hit damage, so she was pretty heavily countered by laners that would quite readily build armor, Vox being one of those. Wait a second,
Vainglory8 playing some games, ordained up, but this is the Baptiste taking too much damage. Maxie's back, the healing flask will keep him alive, and he's gonna be just fine.
He's fine there. Vainglory8 was looking for the catch-up. So going back to that Gwen point, Gwen, you know, she is very much about hitting hard, hitting once, hitting fast. And that's often what she did against these likes of the CP mages like Scarf and Celeste, because they naturally want to go for CP items and then want to have boots and a reflex block. It's very unlikely that they want to have armor in their kit. So therefore, Celeste is going to still have that huge on-hit damage versus them. And it's the same with CP Idris. CP Idris doesn't want any armor in his kit, so Celeste is a pretty solid pickup for him here. Also allows them to capitalize on the mid game a bit better than they probably would have done with a lot of other carries.
The Gwen,
she'll go
or did I miss your...
I meant the Gwen. Yep, the Gwen helps you capitalize on the sort of the mid game a little bit better here, Unist.
All right, makes a lot of sense. I thought I had missed a point, but we are all on the same page. Tiggs is there. He's got the afterburn flash stunned up. Pop that Storm Guard, move back with Merciless Pursuit. Best Chuck ordained up, but nothing to follow. So we will remain scoreless at this point. 3 minutes in.
I like that TSM are not afraid to burn their healing flask early on in the laning phase, especially after you've just received a gank. You know, that's the best time to burn it. If you have to burn it to stay in lane, burn it earlier rather than later, because you want to have them up around that 4 or 5 minute mark where you know that mid-game team fights might take place because fountains are getting completed and so on and so forth. I like this from DNTO. Steps up, pushes Best Chuck and Flash X away after they try to be a bit aggressive onto Max Green here. But I'm just wondering, I think the Rhyme, interestingly, isn't as good into the Glaive as a lot of people might think, because Rhyme gets repositioned very easily by Glaive. The Afterburn puts Rhyme in an awkward spot where he's actually stunned up for a momentary period of time, and if you can then kite away from him when he's isolated, it's a little bit easier to take him down. So I think, out of all the melee picks in the world, Glaive is not a bad one into Rhyme.
Yeah, he has to be careful though. I mean, sometimes you can miss position. Oh, Best Chuck getting chased down by Zio. One more attack would have had him. He does get stunned up, but wow, almost taking Best Chuck down there.
Yeah, Flash is going to try and stall the way, but Zio, no, he knows how to use this Idris. He's not afraid to go aggressive, even on a CP Idris, who realistically, all of the damage comes from Chakram before you get that divergent paths unlocked. You can see Zio already picked up a bit of armor early on here, knowing how powerful Grace can be. Yeah, so Grace, what we're talking about, Gwen can be. I'm sorry, my brain isn't quite working.
You say Ozo next time you talk about her.
Yeah, it's because I'm casting with you. Ozo's on my mind continuously. He's picked up the armor already. It's a pretty common strategy for the sort of CP Idrises, especially against ranged weapon power laners, to pick up the armor early on. But it pays out tenfold versus the Gwen, because again, you can negate a lot of that burst on hit damage that she tries to put out. And she's actually gone for the poison shift.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you talk to us about that?
I just noticed it for a second, but again, I think probably pretty important if you're trying to focus down a carry. You're going to limit some of the healing maybe coming out from Batiste, you limit the fountain healing, but it's just very interesting that he's picking that up. It's very anti-Gwen in terms of what she usually wants to provide.
We'll see at this point. Tiggs from topside, he's on to Chuck. The Ordained is out, Chuck stunned up. Not the afterburn you were looking for. Max trying to follow here, but he's waiting on cooldowns. And Zio really not ready to commit yet. Vonsi did drop in the jungle, chasing T-Tigers. That's going to be the ult coming down. Dropping a lot of damage. He's moving forward. He's got the slow. Tiggs forced to use boots. Did T-Tigers buy tier 2 boots to get out of that one? I think he did. And he should be just fine unless he gets rooted up or caught here. I don't think once he actually dives on this. Tiggs able to get his own mid. He'll get the healing off of that, making the plays.
Yeah, Von C going to get locked up by the Ordained here. Flash X is going to stop T-Tigers making his way round, and Von C head back towards lane. I'm wondering whether this Poison Shiv is simply there to prevent healing off Von C, and you almost like you're building to facilitate Von C as your primary damage source, and obviously Best Chuck then is almost just like a sustained damage source, so maybe he's going for the sustained fight because Rhyme is a sustained fighter in general. He's trying to play away from the burst, but it's just interesting. It's not a build that you often see on Gwen, especially given that her standard build generally tends to be Tension Bow into Sorrow Blade, then into some sort of attack speed like a Breaking Point. I'm wondering how this is going to pay out for Best Chuck.
Yeah, I'm pretty curious as well. I mean, I would have to guess that we would see with this, maybe, well, there you go. There's your Tension Bow. Now, does he go into like a Breaking Point, or does he go crit? Where does he go from here?
I feel like you almost have to go Sorrow Blade.
Just Sorrow Blade. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like or Spell Sword. Maybe you're going for the straight up.
Oh yeah, update items. Loving it.
It is an item that works pretty well with Gwen, for instance. She gets to spam that bug shot a little bit more readily than she would do usually as her weapon power build path, and Gwen is a carry that does have energy problems if she is spamming her skills, so Spell Sword does help that out quite considerably. It's something that I often go as a 4th item on Gwen if I'm playing like a 4-item weapon power carry, but maybe we see Best Chuck pick that up as a 3rd item here.
Yeah, we could see that come out. I would worry that it's not going to provide them enough damage actually coming out here, but we'll see. Von C just with the Shatter Glass, maybe he's got components that he can build into an Eve, but we'll see what he does moving forward. They do have a whole bunch of damage, and there's a lot of lockdown between, everything that the Rhyme can do to lock a target down, plus you have Flash rapidly approaching level 6 where he'll get that Blast Tremor, and they'll be able to really shut these guys down when they engage.
Yeah, the Shatter Glass is a build that we've seen a lot of pro players pull out on the Rhyme. It actually gives you more healing, as it gives you more sort of sustained, because you generate more fortified health because you're doing more damage. That's kind of how it works. But you do have to be landing your skills to make it effective. A lot of people often see the Eve of Harvest or the Broken Myth come out first, but maybe he's just looking for the flat fortified health generation here. And also
both captains have their ultimates. I think they're trying to fight around that.
It also gives you better damage over time, because remember, if you do basic attack, you get that damage over time as well, so it does give you slightly better damage over time coming out from the basic attack from the Rhyme as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very strong pickup. Makes a lot of sense, and you have to respect, I mean, of course, the Winter Spire damage. You have to respect the basic attacks coming out. It all feeds into itself, and I think all of that makes Rhyme a very smart pick here. I think what you talked about as far as, sustain just being a little bit harder to come by on the fold these days makes Rhyme a great pick.
Yeah, the only worry is if it gets to the late game, Dienzio is going to have the perfect remedy to Rhyme. You know, unless you see Von C rush towards those journey boots early on, you know, Dienzio is going to very quickly ramp up towards a carry that is so easy to evade Rhyme with. You know, Rhyme has to be literally on top of you to be doing his damage in the most case. And a lot of ways that Rhyme Rhyme tries to counter ranged carries is by prioritizing movement speed, you know, then rushing in and trying to get a root off. So I'm wondering whether, you know, after this Eve of Harvest comes out, we see Von C work towards a reflex block and then maybe some enhanced movement.
Well, honestly, Zio's really not going to want to build defense either, right? So if he does get caught by like a stun, a blast tremor, Rhymes on his face, and can follow up with a Valkyrie, like he could blow him up incredibly quickly.
Sure.
The turret taking very quick damage here. Tiggs making the rotation up from the jungle. Can they find anything? Max potentially looking for an Ordained. He's going to hold on to these abilities.
So we see Bestchuk going for the heavy steel here, which means the spell sword is off the cards. Now it's up to him as to whether he goes towards breaking point. Wait.
Oh, they're going to block. Was that a blast tremor blocked off there? Either way, the Valkyrie did come through, not connecting the way they would have liked. You got to respect this Winter Spire damage. Bestchuk heading back. A lot of damage from the Falcon coming out. They turned it around. TSM on the chase now. Tried to have the advantage. Max dropping below. One more attack. They would have taken him down. Max, such calculations. That is pretty impressive stuff.
Von C also generating a bit of sustain through there. One more basic attack would have finished it off, but Bestchuk's positioning was so nice. The holding of his B to get out of that afterburn stun as well, to get him into a position to get to the back of the fight. And also, wait a second. Wait, Steel might come through.
Zio, make the plays! He's just waiting. He wants his gold miner. Tiggs. Oh, no! Of course, Bestchuk. Boosted Chuck in A, making the plays.
Really, really good hold of his heroic perk to make sure he had the burst damage. With the tension bow, very hard to out damage that, especially at this stage of the game for the CP Idris, who is ramping up very quickly, by the way. He's working towards his broken myth now and has got the reflex block humanist, so is prioritizing a bit of those defensive capabilities. Wondering whether Bestchuk goes towards the Sorrow Blade or the Breaking Point. Breaking Point gives him a better sustained fight, but doesn't really have a huge amount of damage to stack it quickly. The Sorrow Blade's going to give him that straight up burst damage. Little interaction that I just noticed in that last fight between Gwen and Rhyme. Buckshot, team-wide slow into a Rhyme. Seems good, man.
Feels good, man. Oh, yeah, this is a good day to be a Rhyme, I guess. I love that, the synergy there. There is so much that slow coming out. I mean, you get hit with the buckshot, that's one thing. Then Ryan gets on you, you're slowed up or you're rooted in place. It could really feel terrible for any of these heroes to get locked down at this point, though. Zio, he'll have to be clean with that reflex. He's holding on to it, just farming here. As you said, he's doing a pretty good job thus far. 121 last hits, 11 minutes into this one. On the flip side, Bestchuk sitting on 103.
Yeah, so Zio's been farming really, really well. He's also been going to the backs. He's been sharing backs with T-Tigers quite a lot as well, so funneling that gold into his pocket. And again, you know, the quicker you can get to late game CP Idris, the more power you're going to have against this Rhyme. You know, the alternating current pickup is a pretty standard for CP Idris, but it gives him that potential to kite more easily against the Rhyme as well, because you can then basic attack and move at the same time, giving you that extra out in terms of damage output and broken myth stacking. Von C's picked up an infusion here, and it's
we
the
saw
Sorrow Blade.
Olafar go with the Frostburn first earlier, but we'll talk about that in a second. Maybe these guys gonna fight here. Potential engagement. It's all about T-Tiger. Does he want to pull the trigger and get in onto a target here? Max already took quite a bit of damage. Once again, you see that buckshot coming out, connecting, slowing all of Tribe down. They have to respect the slow and the potential follow-up here. This Flash can throw up his blast tremor at any point. Of course, they might be able to block that one up if they see it coming. The turret taking a whole bunch of damage. Tribe, they lost their turret. Now they decide to fight. The blast tremor connects on his as well. TSM, big damage. Fearsome Shade biting them just a second, but Max will fall as well. That is a huge loss for Tribe as they lose too. Tiggs not able to do anything.
What a chain between Flash X using that silence straight into the Valkyrie. Huge damage across the entire Tribe squad, and that was beautiful. It was a symphony for TSM there, and they get the turret as well. They're going to get the gold miner also here. Humanist, what a beautiful example of how to combo your abilities, how to chain that damage together. Wow, that was wonderful.
Someone should just clip that and submit it as a YouTube tutorial. You don't even need to say anything. That was a combo indeed, my friend.
That was beautiful. It really, really was. And you can see Bestchuk working towards what I imagine is going to be a Tyrant's Monocle here. Just now you can see he wanted to get the Poison Shiv for the sustain to sort of generate and sustain through that laning phase, and now he's just going for that big on-hit burst damage like we know Gwen to be. You're just subbing out Poison Shiv for the breaking point here in your generic Gwen build path, and this is just looking to blow up that target that's literally right in front of you and can be anyone right now because no one has picked up any armor for Gwen right now, so she's going to be having a field day. Chuck's going to be doing so much damage.
TSM moving like a flock of birds in that last fight. We'll see if they can keep it up here. Tried moving forward. Zio with the Shroud Step, just continuing to apply pressure to stay in range, to throw with that Chakram if needed. It's just a constant threat. Makes TSM respect that. And they have to hang back in their own positioning. Flash is going to drop down, find Zio. Merciless pursues himself right out of there. He's like, no, I think we'll not play games yet.
It's interesting you mentioned Kavalapar's Frostburn first Idris because it's a point that's had much contention. Wait a second.
Oh, Tiggs is out. This is a big damage boost. Too much damage in the lane. He's able to find a kill. Tiggs, not enough healing to keep him alive, and that's going to be a double kill for the Gwen. 3-0-1 now for Best Chuck, as they're going to be able to march forward. What were you saying?
Well, what I was going to say is kind of irrelevant to that point because I think the biggest point to stress right here is this is what happens when you don't buy armor against a Gwen. She absolutely destroys you. Unbelievable damage. That was like a 300 hit followed up by an even bigger one onto Zio there. He just got absolutely shredded. And again, a CP Idris doesn't want to build 3 items. He wants 4. And therefore he has got no space in terms of item slots for his armor. I mean, there's almost no excuse for Zio, for T-Tiger's not having armor right now, but he hasn't got any. And you saw he went down just as quickly. So good from TSM.
He's respecting Von C on this rhyme, and I guess Tiggs has to be on the front line, so he's taking these Winter Spire damage. But yeah,
it's a difficult thing, isn't it? Because Rhyme demands respect because of the type of carry he is. If you ignore him, he will deal damage to you, especially if you're a melee hero like Glaive. But you have one of the hardest hitting and easiest that's not even a word, the most easily countered weapon power carries to armor.
Well, this is a bit of damage coming out here. It's Flash finding a stun, but eating some of that damage coming out of Zio. Zio, he has pretty good positioning at this point. Flash with the Merciless Pursuit moving forward, activates the Storm Guard, finds the stun on Zio. Zio Shroud Step back. Max Green doing his best. A nice dodge on the Ace's high. There you go to have the Afront in. The Valkyrie comes down, but they've already lost Best Chuck. TSM on the retreat now. Von C throwing the Winter Spires. A nice Shimmer Strike, putting Zio into good position. Blast Trimmer will cancel off a little bit of the aggression. Von C should be able to get out of this one. Flash X, bold move, my friend. Another Afterburn. Tiggs, he's on to Von C. Flash dropping low. They've got Flash. Max, he's low. Tiggs is low. Zio's low. Von C wants some. He's in there in the party, booting forward. Throws the Winter Spire. He'll be able to take Tiggs down. These guys, they're here for the dance, the symphony, and for the fun. Von C.
Wrong way, buddy. Wrong way.
If we could have paused it and had like the whole world vote on where he would have thrown the Winter Spire, I don't think people would have guessed right there.
No. It was a little bit of an overextension from Best Chuck, but T-Tiger's doing exactly what we saw of him so much of in the Unified Western Live Championships. The perfect pinpoint precision on his Afterburn on the Glaive, seeking out those opportunities. But Von C, he's so difficult to kill.
With fire, he's playing with ice. Oh, Best Chuck! Oh, just takes him down. You know, that's what Gwen is pretty good.
Yeah. Against these no armor carries that have no slots to build armor, Gwen's pretty good, bro. And you can see how much damage she's doing. She literally has, there's literally no defense. No defense versus her.
Now Von C, okay, there's so much damage coming out of the Gwen. Von C, I think, could go for his Journey Boots right here, right now. We'll see if he wants to prioritize just getting into another offensive item, but having that mobility is going to be insane. Also, Flash continuing to build up the captain of the guard stacks. He's just going to get tankier and tankier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Catherine does. She just becomes a monster. The longer and longer you leave her, the more and more natural resistance she builds up through that heroic perk. She's almost impossible to kill if you let her go forever. And now the Tyrant's Monocle's been finished again. Still no armor on that front line for Tribe. And, you know, Gwen, like we said, is one of the most easily countered weapon power carries for. Wait a second. Flash is going in.
Done the Aces high as well. Max getting dropped down. Max, he's able to get out the fountain just on the edge, but they take him down anyway. Best Chuck's in deep. Zio with a Shimmer Strike over the top. Zio staying alive. They want him. They've got him. Von C in deep. He's taking the Crystal Turret damage. He doesn't even care. He's a Rhyme. My goodness, the sustain's intense. T-Tigers at full health. Vauncey low, Flash low as well. They're going to move in. Winter Spire is there. Flash, you find the damage. He gets knocked Afterburn back. He's taking the damage. Flash is going to go down. What a play out of Tiggs. He's turning around. Scrack still marching on the Bane Crystal turret at this point. Vauncey hanging around. They're able to take one down. Tiggs, he's on to him. He should be able to find the kill. The healing flask is there, though. What's up? What's happening? Afterburn over the top. Max Green's got him. They got the Ordained. They dance around, avoid the damage. Take him down. Get the ace. But these guys are living with just a sliver of health here.
And if Kraken can get this turret, it will be a win for TSM. It will be worth paying Vauncey's life because they have an open Vein Crystal to work with. They need only a sliver of a chance now to push down the lane and win this game out and take the series in a 2-0 fashion. Now T-Tigers picks up a coat of plates. Now he realizes that he needs to survive a little bit longer to find those prime opportunities to find the afterburns. But I mean, Best Chuck sold his poison shiv and gone for a tornado trigger. Because why the hell not?
Dude, that's what I'm talking about. Get that poison shiv out of there, dude. Okay, so now he's got a bit more attack speed. This is great. The Gwen is a huge threat.
More crit as well, so that big first hit, if it critical strikes, is going to absolutely shred. And obviously, realistically, you want to be landing that onto Dienzio where you can, because I reckon that's half his HP in one hit if it crits. Maybe more.
Yeah, probably 3/4 at this point. Azil ought to get rid of that reflex and just get himself a Slumbering Husk. I don't know.
I mean, he has to be wary of the Catherine stun, but if you can avoid that, then...
Just fight at this point, team. Just fight.
Broken Myth comes out for Vauncey. He picks up a bit of armor for himself. So there we are. The sustain is now coming out for Vauncey. Flash is going in.
Flash moving in. Tiggs does have the positioning on the backside. He doesn't
Look at Chuck. Look at Chuck. Look at Chuck.
Yeah, this is Best Chuck running right down the lane. They realize this. Trying to get back. Max Green, he's in the best position to do so. Zio's playing with Vauncey. Flash will go ahead and throw the blast trimmer out there. Tiggs, he's got the minions anchored on him. The minions come over the top of Kansas City. T-Tigers just got trolled out harder than I've ever seen anybody get trolled out by a jungle monster. What a disaster as Best Chuck finishes this one out. Max just watches in horror as his Vein Crystal falls, and TSM are gonna take this series 2-0.
No one to jump the wall for TSM. I think Max might have thought he could go a little bit easier on the scout trap placement, but you can't stop the Best Chuck NA Inquisition as he heads into the base and cleans that